Thank you. Mr. Repu has the floor. 1 minute.
President, I am extremely worried about the situation in Egypt because it has to do with historic, ethnic and other issues. The Coptic Christians are a very important minority in Egypt. About 10%, 8 million people are Coptic Christians in Egypt. They are proud of their situation as well as of their Oriental Christian tradition. That is why the attack in December was extremely violent and premeditated. The fact that many Coptic Christian women have been forced to change their religion, they have been raped and so on. This is a very poor example for other countries which can enter in such a sphere of violence. That is why we must emphasize good dialogue between different religions.
Thank you, Mr. Repo. Mr. Weigel has the floor. 1 minute.
Mr. Chairman, whenever a murder happens, particularly a murder and assassination based on religious convictions, we are lost for words. We need to condemn such acts, and that is not even enough. The fact that another incident, another crime has happened in the Middle East seems to be a reflection of a general situation and insufficient respect for the religious freedom of those who pray to another god. So religious tolerance is not respected in many ways. Why has the political group of ALDE suggested that the discussion on the respect of human and religious rights in Egypt and Malaysia to be held separately? Well, we've done it because we believe that we should do it on a case-by-case basis. Egypt is not the most obvious case of religious intolerance. On the contrary, I'd say. Thank you.
Mr. Tannock, 1 minute.
Thank you, President. Sadly, there's been a general climate in the Islamic world of increasing jihadi militancy aimed at non-Muslim communities in their midst, and in particular, and more often than not, this means the Christians. The Copts, which are one of the oldest Christian churches in the world, have a large diaspora in London, which I represent, and their leaders have come to me and complained of a worsening situation, regrettably, in Egypt, orchestrated by the Muslim Brotherhood, and in spite of the best efforts by President Mubarak's government to protect them, matters have deteriorated. We witness a similar story with the Assyrian Christians in Iraq, the Christians of Palestine and Pakistan, and now, as we see for the first time, even in Malaysia. This House has for too long, in my view, ignored Christian minority rights in the rest of the world, but they look to the European Union and to the United States for protection, so I welcome this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tannock. Next speaker. For 1 minute is Mr. Patton.
Thank you, Mr. President. The persecution of Christians and other religious minorities is growing in Islamic countries. Christians who have lived in countries such as Egypt and in the Mediterranean area for almost 2,000 years are increasingly being persecuted and driven out of their ancestral homelands. This is because of the growing power of intolerant, fundamentalist and extremist Islamist ideology, Islamofascism. The persecution of Christians, Christian minorities and others across the Islamic world is vastly underreported by the West's media. The media should not only report the persecution as it happens, but they should explain to the general public the reasons why it is happening. They should explain who is doing this, i.e. Muslim fanatics, and why they are doing it, because of the intolerant and violent fault lines in Islamic ideology. Democratic governments worldwide should put maximum diplomatic pressure on countries such as Egypt to suppress this intolerable persecution.
Thank you, Mr. Batten. Commissioner Kroes has the floor.
Mr. President, honourable members, The Commission is deeply shocked and saddened by what happened on Coptic Christmas Eve in Nag Hammadi in southern Egypt and the tragic death of 6 Copts and a Muslim policeman in a drive-by shooting. We are positive that the authorities took rapid action to find and arrest those suspected of committing this awful crime. And, Mr. President, a thorough investigation and bringing those responsible to justice will send a clear signal that a violence based on religious and influence is not acceptable in Egyptian society. Egypt's constitution provides for freedom of belief and free practice of religion. However, we do hear complaints of discrimination against the Copts and against other religious minorities, such as the Baha'i, in the workplace and by the judicial system. We are aware, Mr. President, of difficulties encountered by several Christian converts, such as the Al Ghori and Mohammed Hegazi in the Egyptian courts. We raised those issues in our regular political dialogue with Egypt. We understand that the government is seeking to address some of the grievances of the Copts, for instance, by removing the obstacles that delay and limit the building and refurbishment of churches. We welcome and encourage such moves and urge the government to identify and tackle the root causes of religious tensions in Egyptian society and to end all forms of discrimination against those belonging to other religions. Mr. President, honourable members, the acts of vandalism against churches in Malaysia following a high court ruling on the use of the word Allah give rise to serious concern. The government, as well as the opposition, including the Pan-Malaysian Islamic Party and 130 Muslim NGOs, have all strongly condemned those attacks. The government has increased security measures to safeguard all places of worship and has also reconfirmed its commitment to protect Malaysia's social and religious harmony and a culture of religion and ethnic diversity. The Malaysian Federal Constitution states that Islam is the religion of the Federation, but other religions may be practiced in peace and in harmony in any part of the Federation. We encourage the authorities, Mr. President, to initiate as soon as possible an all-encompassing interfaith dialogue with all religious beliefs to promote mutual understanding so that Malaysia can continue to develop peacefully in ethnic and social harmony. And in that regard, Mr. President, the Malaysian Home Ministry has a particular responsibility to explain thoroughly and objectively to its citizens the issue at stake. Honourable members, we strongly condemn all acts of intolerance against any person because of his religion or belief wherever. Unfortunately, no country is immune from this. We call on public authorities to fully protect all religious communities, including Christians, from discrimination and from repression. And the Commission gives high priority to freedom of religion or belief as central tenets of the EU's human rights policy by raising the issue in a political dialogue with countries where the problem persists, by supporting local human rights projects and by actively promoting freedom of religion or belief at the UN forums.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. That concludes the debate on this point.